Do you want to know what makes knowledge grow? Then everybody watch Deen show.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. Today we're going to be giving you the 5 top evidences, proof, rational arguments for the existence of the creator of the heavens and the earth. Now it's a shame that some of us have come to this state where we deny the one who's created us. But we can understand. Some of you might come from a background where there's some weird ideas about the one who created us. So you're intelligent enough to say, no, this is not God. But you went a little bit too far and you said, there is no God at all. So today, for that small minority that's out there, because the vast majority of the world testify that there is a creator. But we're on the same page on one thing. We say that there's no God. You said the same thing. But we say, except the one true God. So hopefully, God willing, after this show, you'll come aboard. But you got to be humble-hearted, open-minded, and let this truth sink in. So we're going to help clear up the fog. There's not no weird ideas here. We're going to be asking you to use your common sense and don't deny the truth when it starts to come in and penetrate. Let it sink in. We'll be right back here on the Deen Show.
Deen. Allah, there's only one God, and Muhammad is his messenger. Allah, la ilaha illallah. Allah, there's only one God, and Jesus was his messenger. Allah, la ilaha illallah.
I don't know why I did that. Maybe it's just to break the ice. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh.
Peace be with you, my brother.
Peace be with you too.
How are you, Dr. Sabil?
Alhamdulillah. Good to see you and good to be here again.
It's been a while since we've teamed up and had you on the show.
Alhamdulillah.
How have you been?
Alhamdulillah. Good to be back. Good to see everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, everyone.
So tell us, you're a doctor, you're a medical doctor, but you're also, the doctor is a doctor of the body, you're also a doctor of the soul. Trying to convey the truth out there to the whole of humanity. Tell us a little bit about, you work with Gain Peace?
Yes, I'm the director of Gain Peace, which is a peace organization. And the purpose of this is to provide education about Islam to those humanity out there who want to know what is Islam, who are Muslims. So we provide them a venue where they could get to know what is Islam, who do we worship, what is the purpose of life, and how we could be the best in this life so we could achieve paradise in the hereafter.
Now time is short. There's a small minority of people who deny totally the existence of the one who created us. Now it's evident. You look around you, you see the sun, you see the moon, the different planets, and you see the animals and the different colors and shapes and languages. This is something so unique, but it's bizarre that people would go to those lengths to deny the one who created us. But as I said earlier, we can understand that there are some man-made religions out there, some man-made ways that kind of created some confusion. So they've been intelligent enough to say, no, this can't be the correct way, but they close it off altogether. So we want to hope that they, after this show, will see the rationale and logic behind these arguments and in Islam. So let's start off. We're going to go in chronological order. We're going to start from number 5. We're going to give the 5 top arguments for the existence of the creator of the heavens and earth. Let's start with number 5. Take it away.
All right. So I have 5 top arguments, inshallah, which we are going to present. So number 5 would be argument from biology, inshallah.
Biology. Okay.
Biology. Okay. So Brother Eddie, suppose if you go to beach today after the show, yes, right, just to relax. Once you go to the beach, you will find some water waves coming up on the shore, and you will see some patterns, some markings on the beach that is created by water waves, could be by wind, could be by rain. When you look at that pattern, you would automatically say, this is created by nature. Because nature creates those kind of patterns. Suppose if you go to the beach tomorrow, and if you find some writings on the beach that says that Andrew was here, suppose, and he was here on the 22nd of April, and he had a good time with his family. When you look at that information, that writing, would you assume that that is coming from water, wind, rain? Or would you assume that there is some intelligent person who made those markings?
Now, if you're actually seeing those markings
Yes.
embedded,
Yeah.
I mean, this common sense would tell you, that couldn't just happen by chance.
Yeah, it cannot be by chance because there is information.
Yeah.
So information could only be created by intelligence. So nature, it creates patterns, and intelligence creates information. Now, here comes the very big point. Within each single cell of our body, and there are 50 trillion cells.
50 trillion cells.
Yeah, 50 trillion cells in the body of each single human being. Within each single cell, there is a nucleus in which there are genes that are instructions of how a cell should function, how the body should function, all the organs, how they should function. So they are like the blueprint, the instruction manual within each cell in the nucleus. So if you take these instructions and write them in the form of a book, for example, you will have to fill up 900 books, 500 pages thick, each book.
Wow.
That's how much information is there within each single cell.
In each cell.
Each cell.
The whole library. There's more than a library. I mean, just...
Yeah, 900 books, 500 pages long each
Yeah.
book. So that is information. That is not some pattern. That is not something by wind, rain, hail, and all of those things. And as we have mentioned, if you see some markings, it has to be intelligence. If you see some information, it has to be intelligence. So within each cell is information. Where did that information came from? If it's not by nature, it has to be intelligence. And that intelligence, we Muslims say, is the Creator Himself.
The Creator of the heavens and the earth.
The
Not
creator
a
of the
man, not a monkey, where they might have, because of the background of their family's religion, many people worship these things. So they obviously have seen like, no man can come up with this, but the Creator of the heavens and the earth definitely can, isn't it?
Indeed, indeed. Now, some of you who are watching this show, they may be saying, why can't it be just by random chance? Somehow in that primitive earth, things may have came about to be. An easy answer to that, Brother Eddie, would be, like suppose if you have a white wall or a white paper, if you start throwing ink at the white paper, the ink is not going to make letters and words and sentences and chapters. It's never going to happen no matter how many times that you throw the ink up there.
Can't happen.
It can't happen. So how can we imagine that 900 books could be formed by chance?
Not
Right?
at all.
With very good instructions about how to maintain the cell, maintain the organs, and maintain the whole human body.
Not possible at all. We can just look around us and see many of the things, as you've mentioned, and anyone who's sincere can look at and create examples of his own from what man has put together in this. I sometimes, I'm driving down the highway or the streets and I see the light posts. You know the light posts?
Sure.
And you see the power lines and they're going into all the different houses.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, this would be absurd if someone said, this just happened by chance. You know how many power lines, they're going to the right, to the left, Comcast and DishNet, they're hitting all these different houses, the wires. And I think about, what if that just happened by chance? It's not possible. But then when you give an example like this of the human body that we don't even reflect, this is not conceivable. It's no way. Okay, so this was number 5. Now we're going to be going to number 4 of the top 5 arguments for the existence of the Creator of the heavens and earth. Number 4. Take it away.
Number 4 has to do with biochemistry. Now suppose if you are traveling from Europe to United States of America. You just cannot travel, you have to have certain documents. And you have to enter through certain port of entry. And there would be some police, some guards standing up there, they will check your documents. So you have to have something. And once you land at the airport, you have to go to your house, you have to have some transportation. Maybe a car. And the car has to be safe enough so you don't, it protects you from the rain, wind, and all of that. And once you reach inside the house, you have to have, certain way that you go inside the house. And you have to travel by highways, right? So if you take that analogy, my dear friend Eddie, each single cell is more complicated and more efficient than any city or any nation or the whole world combined. each single cell.
Wow.
Each cell has a cell membrane, and the cell membrane has special points of entry. And there are guards up there, special proteins and enzymes that only let certain chemicals in and certain chemicals out, number one. For those chemicals that are taken in, they have to go to their destination. So there are special highways which are called as cytoskeletons within the cell. Just imagine this. And then those cells, they have certain semis or certain trucks that takes those chemicals to their proper destination. And each cell and each of those vesicles or those transportation systems, they have a GPS system just to make sure that chemical has to go to the right destination. And after they reach there, the trucks, they don't just stand up there within the cell. They have to be loaded off. So there are special chemicals that load them off.
This is all in our body.
All in our body, all the 50 trillion cells, they are working day in and day out. This kind of a process.
Amazing. Subhanallah.
Yes. And again, let's take this to a higher level now. Suppose once you reach your home, you want to buy a book from Amazon, for example.
Yes.
Now, Amazon doesn't publish the books, it only packages and it sends the books, ships the books out. So within each cell, you have a plant that produces the proteins, which are the ribosomes. Then you have a plant that packages, just like Amazon, you have the Golgi apparatus that packages the plant in such a way that in the mail it doesn't get damaged. It reaches the proper destination. Right? Now, once you're inside the house, you have to have the lights, you have to have electricity to function your computer, your television, and all the appliances. So within each cell, you have a plant house or a power plant, which is called the mitochondria, that supplies all the energy to the whole cell and the whole body. All right? Now, once we are inside the house, sometimes we have to dispose some of the garbage, and garbage trucks, they pick up each day, each week of the day,
yes,
of the year, right?
Yes.
You have to have that. If you don't, then it's going to be health hazard, whatever,
yes,
to the city and to the house. In the same way, there are certain chemicals which are called lysozymes inside the cell that are the garbage disposable units of the cell.
All this is working in the body.
In the body, inside each single cell.
And you don't even have to pay the workers inside.
You don't have
It's
to pay
all
at
free.
all. It's all free, my dear brother.
Yeah.
Yes. So look at it. A full functional city inside each single cell.
Wow.
Day in and day out, more efficient and more complicated than Paris, London, Chicago, or Rome for matter.
But the same way you wouldn't assume if you saw those electric poles and all those power lines going to their proper places, if you had that same setup, like you said, Paris, or even a small community for that amusement park, and you see all the different rides and the roller coasters, the houses, 2 flats, everything is set up, and you ask, who's the developer? Oh, it just popped up like this. We wouldn't accept that, would we?
We won't, obviously. That would be impossible. Just like they said that Rome was not built overnight, right?
Yeah, it wasn't.
It wasn't built overnight. So it took intelligent human beings for a long number of days and weeks and years to build Rome, one city.
Yes.
How can we imagine that this complicated city, which is the cell, was built by chance without any intelligence?
And from what you're telling us, this cell is more complex than any amusement park, any 2-flat, any big skyscraper, any city, any of these things.
Not just complicated, more efficient.
More efficient also.
Yeah. Not every complicated thing is good or efficient, but cell has 2 characteristics, complicated and efficient.
It's bizarre how and to what lengths some people will go, but it's amazing. I heard a story once I'd like to share. Maybe you've heard it too. When one of the great scholars of Islam, he was having a dialogue with some atheists, and they had made a appointment to meet at a certain time and place. He was purposely late, and then they asked him, they said, why are you late? You're supposed to be a Muslim. You're supposed to be punctual. What's going on? He said, you know what? I came across a bridge, and it was broke, and I couldn't cross. And they said, well, how'd you get here? He said, well, all of a sudden, all the nails and the wood and everything came together, and I crossed over. They said, man, you're crazy. Get out of here with that. He said, I'm crazy. He said, what about you? Look at this universe and everything in it and the cells like you're mentioning, and you're saying this came by chance? You're the one that's got something loose, not me. And I think as the story goes on, I think they accepted Islam, the call to the worship of the one God, worshiping Him alone and not His creation. So we will actually, go ahead, Dr. Seville.
Number 2 again. Suppose if I tell you, Brother Eddie, that this city, this humongous city, that it is going to replicate itself every few hours. That Chicago is going to replicate itself. All the structures, all the people, all the rides in there, all the electric supplies. It keep on replicating Chicago every few hours, each single day.
I said you're crazy.
But each single cell is doing that, my dear brother. As complicated it is replicating. So it could make more cells.
But we just can't comprehend that. But we can, when you give this beautiful example, this whole city, we can see the city and we say, no, you can't do that. You know how many years it took to build?
Yeah, so just imagine that all the scientists, all the research institutions with the modern technology of the 21st century, we cannot even make one single functional cell.
Not even one functional cell.
Never, we never did that. So how can we assume that nature could have produced that complicated, very, efficient cell by chance? Impossible. If it's impossible by human beings or anyone by nature, it has to be pointing to one direction, and that entity is a supreme being who we call as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Before, because we're almost out of time, and it looks like we're going to have to do a part 2 to this. We came to only number 2. And of the top 5, what is it about Islam that's so unique, that fits with human reason, with the intelligence of human being? Let's give them a little bit of the taste of Islam. Talk to us a little bit about Islam.
Islam, my dear friends, is very rational and it's easy to understand. It starts with the pure monotheistic belief of the concept of God. Oneness of God, very easy to understand. There is no complicated logic, philosophy involved. God is one in one, easy to understand. Then the way to salvation is very easy. Personal accountability. We don't have to give the sins somebody, no one has to die for us. If I did commit a sin, I would be punished or saved, right? Personal accountability. Number 3, the comprehensive guidance that God has provided. It brings peace and purpose in life, and it provides solution for a person and for the society. There's so many problems out there. And by living this guidance, by knowing the oneness of God, inshallah, each single person would find answers and peace and purpose in life and paradise everlasting in the hereafter.
And the book that we have here that God sent over a span of 23 years, as the previous books, some of the books that people have today, is it true that there's no contradictions in this book? There are no flaws, there are no scientific inaccuracies, none of this?
No, because the Quran itself says that in chapter 4, verse number 82, don't they ponder over the Quran? Had it been from anyone besides Allah, you would have found many contradictions in it.
That's a challenge.
It's a challenge. No single contradiction of scientific nature, of historical nature, of prophetic nature, anything at all. Then last but not the least, Quran also mentions in chapter 41, verse number 53, that God is going to provide the signs in the universe and within ourselves that may become apparent that this is the truth.
And indeed, it is the truth, and over 1.5 billion people testified to it, and it is something that if you look at it with an open heart and open mind, you'll come to the same realization. We're going to have to do part 2 of the 5 top arguments for the existence of God. Make sure you come back next week so we can continue, and we'll see you then, inshallah, God willing. Peace be unto you.
Do you want to know what makes an ivy grow? And everybody watch Deen show.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. Welcome back to the Deen show. This is part 2. We were covering the top 5 arguments for the existence of the creator of the heavens and the earth. When we come back, we've gotten to number 2. So we're counting it down. You don't want to go nowhere. We'll be right back to continue this fabulous show. We'll be right back on the Deen show. Assalamu alaikum.
Allah, there's only one God, and Muhammad is his messenger. Allah, La ilaha illallah. Allah, there's only one God, and Jesus was His messenger. Allah, La ilaha illallah.
I don't know why I did that. Maybe it's just to break the ice. Our audience doesn't have to take an Arabic class. For all our non-Muslim guests, our brothers in humanity, who I always say we want them to be our brothers in faith.
Inshallah.
We want the best for everybody, don't we?
Yes, indeed, indeed.
We want them in paradise. Because what do you got of this life? You live a short life, maybe you have all the money, you have all the wealth, you have the big house, cars, but eventually you're going to die. So I think this is a very serious topic because death is something that we can all agree upon. We're going to die. So we need to take these things seriously. Don't you think so?
It's very important, very important. Life is very short and we have to, God has given us, like in the Quran, God has mentioned close to 750 times to think and ponder, to reflect, to investigate. And inshallah, like we mentioned in the last segment, chapter 41, verse number 53 of the Quran mentions that God has given us signs both in the universe around us and within ourselves that this is the truth. And inshallah, we are going to investigate more and provide the answers that this is indeed the truth when we reason out using science and logic that there is only one God and this is the guidance from God.
And that's the thing, Islam doesn't push away science. It doesn't persecute people of science as some religions have in the past. The more deeply you look into the wonders of the world, everything that you find today that's been confirmed, it goes hand in hand with the Quran, doesn't it?
Indeed, indeed it does.
So let's go now and continue on giving the 5 top arguments for the existence of the Creator of the heavens and the earth. We went from 5, 4, you ready for number 3?
Right, so let's just briefly say that we went over the reason from biology that testifies to the existence of God. From biochemistry, we give evidence that it cannot have, the cell cannot have came about by itself. It is so complicated and efficient. God has to be the creator. And now, inshallah, we'll touch upon argument number 3, 2, and number 1, inshallah.
So if you didn't see arguments 5 and 4, you can go back to thedeenshow.com, THEDEN show.com. You have your own private section there. People can see some of the previous shows we've done. Take it away with number 3.
Number 3 is dealing with the evidence from physics.
Physics.
Brother Eddie, was physics your favorite topic in college?
Not at all.
Not at all. But we'll just touch upon it, inshallah. Yes. Okay. Now, there is a theory of fact in physics which is called as the second law of thermodynamics. It's a very big word, but it's very simple to understand. It basically says that things move from order to disorder. For example, suppose if you don't take off this place, if you don't take care of it, eventually, the paint is going to peel off, the dust is going to pile up, and eventually, things are going to disintegrate. So from order to disorder, this is what this law says. Now, if you take this law to the logical consequences, this whole universe is this big system. It is also has to move from order to disorder. So what the scientists have said that if long enough time passes, that means we will be in the total state of disorder. Each single atom within myself, within the whole world out there, they are moving, they are revolving, each single atom.
Yes.
Electron and protons and neutrons within each single atom. All that energy is one day going to expire. So we will be eventually going through the heat death of the universe. So that is what eventually will happen if long enough time passes. So when we converse with the atheists sometimes, or people who deny God, they say that this world is in existence forever. It is infinite.
That's what they say.
That's what they say, right? It has always been like this. But according to the second law of thermodynamics, if long enough time passes, we'll be in a state of total chaos and heat death. That means I shouldn't be speaking. There should not be any sun, moon, or any motion to begin with. That only happens if long enough time passes. I'm speaking, you're hearing, right? You have the monitors, you have the lights up here. That means we are not in the state of heat death, are we?
No.
We are not. Since we are not in the state of heat death, that means long enough time has not passed. If long enough time has not passed, that means the time began, the universe began. If the universe began, that means anything that begins to exist has to have a beginner.
Yes.
And the beginner, we Muslims say, is Allah, the Creator Himself. Not existed, how can it create itself?
Definitely.
Right?
So this is argument number 3 with Dr. Sabil here on the Deen Show. We're going to take a break. I know you're excited. We're counting down. We've gotten from 5, 4, 3. We got 2 and 1 left. So again, all we ask is that you have an open mind, humble heart. And if this is starting to make sense, it's going to continue making sense, God willing. And then hopefully you can do the right thing and accept the truth and let it penetrate. And then, as they say, the truth shall set you free. We'll see you in a second here on the Deen Show.
When you look at the Bible, it says the earth has 4 corners. That's wrong.
If any Christian can point out a single unambiguous statement where Jesus Christ, peace be upon himself, says that I am God, I am ready to accept Christianity.
Back on the Deen Show with Dr. Sabil, giving you the top 5 arguments for the existence of the Creator of the heavens and the earth. To many people, to the vast majority of the world, this is apparent. You just have to look outside and you see the sun and you see the mountains and you see this universe and you see the different colors and shapes, sizes. It's something that just any rational human being, even if he didn't agree with the religion or man-made religion organized by man, he should go a little bit further. And hopefully this show will stimulate him to turn that light back on, to continue the same way a person looks for the material things and success in this life. He'll look for the ultimate success, not only in this life, but also in the hereafter, because we, as we said, we're all going to die. This is a serious topic, and we're counting it down from 5, 4, 3. Are you ready for number 2?
Number 2, inshallah. Let's go for it.
Let's go. Number 2, here on the Deen Show.
Number 2 is the evidence from the fine-tuning of the universe. Now, an analogy really quick. You know, we are sitting in the studio up here. We are sitting down on the chair. The chairs have to be arranged in a proper way. The cameras are focused in such a way that they don't point down to the floor or up there. They're focused in the right place.
Yes.
You have the proper lighting. The whole thing is fine-tuned so we could have a proper, friendly conversation up here.
Absolutely.
So, as we are sitting down here, how come we are not floating? How come we are not, crushed ourselves? That means there is enough gravity to hold us down in the right amount of gravity so we could sit down properly.
Specifically here on the earth?
Yes, on the earth. So suppose if the gravity was a little bit less, we would be floating. Okay?
Yes.
Just imagine. Or if the gravity even is lesser, we'll be floating off into space.
Yeah.
If the gravity is more than what we have right now, that means we will be crushed ourselves on our own weight. We won't exist.
We don't think about these things. Amazing.
Somebody has placed the right amount of gravity on Earth.
Just the right amount.
Just the right amount. The air that we are breathing over here right now, the air has to contain about 78% nitrogen and about 21% oxygen. Suppose if the oxygen percentage was higher or lower, that means the way that we are breathing,
what would happen?
We won't be able to survive the way that we are surviving right now. So it has to be exactly the right amount.
And it is exactly the right amount.
It is the right amount. Who placed the right amount of oxygen for us to breathe? For us, for animals, for the plants to survive.
So if somebody brings you a cup of coffee and it's just the right amount of sugar, because some people won't drink the coffee if it's not just the right amount of cream and sugar, and it just happened to come to you, and it's simple examples, and now you just said, oh, this coffee's great, just the right amount of sugar. Who put this in here? Oh, it just came like that, it just happened.
Yeah, and when we're speaking about coffee, we're just speaking about one human being, for our taste buds.
Yeah.
But over here, we're speaking about life and death.
Exactly.
Life and death, okay? Same way, suppose if the shape of the earth and the distance between the earth and the sun, it is exactly the right distance. If it were any more closer, we'll be so hot on this earth, life would have perished. If we were a little bit away from the sun, it would be too cold, even then the life would have perished. So there are so many parameters, so many different variables which are so fine-tuned on earth, in our bodies, within ourselves, and in the universe, that they cannot have came about by chance.
This is amazing, amazing, amazing. I look at some gadgets, some things you can't understand, but you can't deny it because you don't understand. You open up, let's say, a car engine, or you open up a computer, or some high-tech piece of machinery, and if you're not versed in that, if you're not an engineer, and you don't know about this gadget, there's no way. You look at it and you're like, this is amazing. All these little fine instruments inside, and everything is running according to its precise mechanism. It was built for a purpose. You can't understand it, but you don't deny it. But some people don't understand, and they deny. It's amazing. And we wouldn't deny that this piece of machinery just came by chance, would we?
No, because there is so many variables, so much fine-tuning in there. The right amount, the right place, the right distance, the right shape for the earth, for the body, for the cell, for the whole universe cannot have come about by chance. It is impossible. If you do the theory of probability in math, it will go beyond 10 raised to the power of minus 50. And anything beyond that is in the range of impossible.
What if I just took the alphabet, A to Z, and I threw it in a garbage, or I threw it in a pot, and then all of a sudden, what would be the chance if I just took A, and I took B, and I took C, and I just started taking them out? I threw them in there, shook it up, and and it just lined up A to Z. Is this possible?
Or for that example, suppose if you have a big jar with all the alphabets in there, if you throw the alphabets, they're not going to form letters, chapters, words, instructions. They're not going to do that, no matter how many times that you keep on throwing that. And how can we imagine the genetic code inside the body, the fine-tuning of the universe, all the small mini-city inside the cell, running by itself, by chance, came about by nobody? That's not possible.
Not possible.
Yeah.
We're almost running out of time, and we have made it to number one. We have made it to number one. Are you ready?
Let's go for it,
5,
inshallah.
4, 3, 2. And the number one argument for the existence of the Creator of the heavens and earth here on the Deen Show. Take it away.
The number one argument is Quran itself. Quran itself, which is the word of the Creator sent to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the Creator. The Quran has many different miracles inside it. It has the linguistic miracle, it has the prophetic miracle, means all the prophecies, it has scientific facts, it has historical facts, comprehensive guidance. But since we don't have time to dwell upon all of those, let us just touch upon the scientific facts of the Quran really quick.
Mentioned in this Quran.
Mentioned in the Quran. Quran is a book that was revealed 1400 years ago. During the time there was no technology as we know of, no Hubble telescope, no microscope, no ultrasound, no MRI machines, none at all. Even then, on the top of it, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he did not knew how to read and write. There were no encyclopedias at that time. So out of the 6,000 verses of the Quran, no less than 500 of them, they deal with science and nature and scientific facts.
Facts, not fiction.
Facts. Now, if you ask any scientist, any cosmologist out there, how did the universe came about to be? They will say that the heavens and the earth, they were in one primordial mass. And there was a big explosion about 14 billion years ago. And from that explosion came about to be all the sun, the stars, the Milky Way, and all the planets. What does the Quran say? The Quran says in chapter 21, verse number 30, do not the unbelievers ponder, see that the heavens and the earth, they were joined together. And it is God who has set it asunder.
That's mentioned in the Quran,
In the
verbatim
Quran.
word of God.
Yes. A human being, 7th century, could not have formulated that, number one. Number two, it says in the Quran, chapter number 41, verse number 11, that in the initial stage, after the explosion, the universe was like a smoke, like a mist. And that later on condensed to form all the different celestial bodies. Quran says it, science proved it.
It's a fact.
Fact number two. Fact number three, we have discovered last century in the 1960s by the red shift and the blue shift that the universe as we know of, it is expanding. All the stars, they're moving away from each other.
Scientific fact.
Scientific fact. They won the Nobel Prize in 1963 or so.
Yes.
Quran says in chapter 51, verse number 47, that it is Allah who has created the heavens and He is expanding it.
It's mentioned
In the Quran, in this book up here.
in the Quran.
1400 years ago, way before any science. Now, when it comes to the shape of this earth, people used to think earth was flat. They used to think earth was like a disk floating on water or with 4 pillars, whatever. Quran says that earth is like a shape of an egg, like an ostrich egg. Chapter 79, verse number 30. Right? When it speaks about how a baby develops inside the mother's womb, with scientific accuracy, it says in chapter 23, verse number 12, 13, and 14. When it describes the mountains and the roots of the mountains, chapter 78, verse number 6 and 7, it says that mountains have pecs, they have roots in there. So 500 scientific facts of that nature, without any error, in 14th century, proven now, could not have came about in this book, written in 1400 years ago.
It's not like, okay, maybe there's 60% right, and then there's 40% wrong, 100% correct from what we know.
100% correct. All 500 of them, no single error, no scientific inaccuracy, proven in our time. And there are many different scientists, like Dr. Keith Moore, Marshall Johnson, Joe Simpson, Maurice Bukai, and on, who studied the Quran in Arabic and English for many years. They all came to proclaim that this book, these words cannot be from a human being. It has to be from the Creator.
They've said this. These are people who specialize in this area of science.
Exactly. They are the specialists. They are the topmost scientists. Like Dr. Keith Moore is the #1 embryologist in the world.
We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and wrap it up here on the Deen Show. You don't want to go nowhere.
Comes to you the truth and the attribute of the one who created you, that He's one and alone running this universe, that He doesn't become born, He doesn't die, He doesn't eat and go to the bathroom. This is not God.
There's problems here.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Who was Jesus worshiping?
Because it's recorded in the Gospels. Despite all of the other issues about the Gospels, we put those aside. We just say it's mentioned there that Jesus worshiped God.
Back here on the Deen Show, we were giving you the top 5 arguments. We're still on #1 with Dr. Seville. Take it away, Dr. Seville. You're talking about the facts, not fiction, that's mentioned in the verbatim Word of God, the Quran.
Yes, so one fact that I would like to dwell upon would be fact about embryology, how a baby fetus develops inside the mother's womb. It says in chapter 23, verse number 12, 13, and 14. It goes over the stage from fertilization and how the organs develop and how, eventually when the baby develops. So it says in minute details about when embryo is about 6-7 days old. So the way it describes it, that it is a leech-like substance. It is lodged in the mother's womb in such a way that it is extracting the nutrients. And the shape, the morphology, the functioning of it is precisely described. And this was discovered only by using very high-powered microscopes. A person with the naked eye could not have seen these things, which are only so minute without microscope way back 1400 years ago. So this again testifies that this information cannot have came from a human being.
Muhammad could not have known these facts about human development in the 7th century because most of them were not discovered until the 20th century.
Human beings make mistakes, right? 500 scientific utterances without a single mistake. It is scientifically, mathematically impossible.
Now I want to play devil's advocate. Someone says, back then some of the Greeks, some of the philosophers, some of the people of knowledge, they made some of these predictions, and Muhammad, he just copied or he heard from them. What do you got to say?
All right, fine. Those Greek scientists, they were good scientists. They made scientific accurate statements. Along with scientific accurate statements, they also made inaccurate statements. Okay? For example, suppose if you have 2 students, one B student, B as in boy, and one D student, D as in David. Suppose if the D student is copying from the B student in the final exam, which is bad by the way, and at the end of the day, if the B students will get 80%, do we expect the D student to get 100%?
No.
No, because if he's copying from the B student, he'll be copying the right answers and he'll be copying the wrong answers from the B student. But the Quran has all of them 100% accurate. So if the Quran would have copied from the Greek, Roman, Egyptian scientists, How come the Quran left out the inaccurate statements or only extracted the accurate statements? Unless it is coming from the Creator Himself.
It's impossible.
Impossible.
And that was number one. Now let's wrap it up with a call. We said for someone to accept the way of life that will grant them peace, happiness, success, not only in this life, but also in the hereafter, they have to say what the atheist said, a part of it, that there's no God, that God's not a man, a woman, He doesn't have a DNA, He doesn't walk the earth, He doesn't have a zip code, an area code. This is not God. So tell us, what's the natural way that already the light bulbs come on, because you've given some fabulous arguments, and I think only a person who's not being sincere and rational and wants to continue following their desires, they might tune off. But I think they even are tuned on. So what's the natural call? Talk to us, Dr. Sabeel.
So after you have listened to these 5 arguments, a person, a logical, rational person would say, okay, fine, if I had doubts in the belief of God, now I know using science, logic, philosophy, history, that God exists. If God exists and there are so many religions, how do we know which is the right one? And we have just shown to you that God has given to us the final testament in the Quran. So this is the right message, and Islam, which is submission to one God, is the right guidance that God has given to us. In there, a person will find solutions. Everyone wants to know, what is the purpose of life? Are we just here to make money, work day in and day out? Or is there more to life? So God says in the Quran, chapter 51, verse 55, that the purpose of life is to worship the Creator. So once we do that in the holistic sense, we will find peace and purpose. And then a person will have solutions to all the problems that the person is going through. Solutions to the society. Solutions of economic problems, of drugs, homosexuality, broken families, any problems, Islam has solutions to it. So if a person ponders about Islam, looks at the evidences that God has provided to us, and embraces it, that means the person would have peace and purpose in life and paradise in the hereafter, inshallah.
That's right, simple as that. And there's a number coming up right now below the screen. There's no God except the one God. There's no deity worthy of worship except the Creator of the heavens and the earth. And if they want to put the key in the door, if they like what we have to say, they want more information, they want to talk to you, they want to talk to somebody else, and they just need some extra motivation, they can call 1-800-662-ISLAM.
Yes, indeed, inshallah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sabeel, for being with us here on the Deen Show. We look forward, inshallah, to having you back again.
Thank you very much, everyone.
And that was our brother, Dr. Sabeel. He gave you the top 5 logical arguments for the existence of the Creator of the heavens and the earth. You don't have to look very far. You just got to look deep inside yourself. And he gave some beautiful examples. And then you look outside of yourself and you see everything in this universe. Design indicates a designer. And that designer is no other than the Creator of the heavens and the earth. Jesus, He called Him by the name Allah. In Arabic we say Allah. And there is no God, like you agree, except Allah. He's not a man. He doesn't sleep. He doesn't rest. He doesn't have children. He doesn't do the things that human beings do. He is the Creator. Everything else is His creation. That is where the confusion probably came up. And you saw all the contradictions in that way of life of your parents and your forefathers. But there is not one contradiction in the Quran. Dr. Sabeel gave some beautiful evidences. And the Quran, Allah, the Creator of the heavens and earth, He makes a challenge. If this Quran was from other than the Creator of the heavens and earth, you would find contradiction, discrepancies. Find one. There's so many facts you can ponder over. And it's there, but you got to be sincere. You got to want the truth. And death is a reality. Death is a reality, and that's what makes this topic, this, more serious. We want to be successful in this life and the hereafter, and there's nothing better than that peace and contentment, that satisfaction you get from knowing the purpose of life, and when you die, getting paradise. And we want you to be in paradise. So give us a call, 1-800-662-ISLAM. You can also see listen to our new radio show at the deenshow.com blog section. Tune in every week. We're here to help you develop a better understanding. We'll see you next time, God willing. Peace be unto you.
He created the universe. To him belong the heavens and the earth. The ever-living, he is the first. He's the owner of mercy. He sent his messengers to all his creatures of the great dangers of worshipping Allah than Allah. There is none greater than the Creator.